Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the Rare Patient Advocacy Summit. I hope that you all had a wonderful first day and felt inspired and have maybe gotten a good night's sleep and are excited for the day ahead. I want to thank you, thanks to Nivelion Therapeutics for providing this morning's breakfast for everyone to get ready to tackle the day. So, I don't know if any of you have done moderating here or emceeing for something, and for the day 2, you put in something like, insert comments about day 1, to keep it fresh and timely. And so it says insert personal comments, and I was thinking last night, and I talked to so many people at the reception last night, and I kept saying, I need to get upstairs and kind of think about my morning and reflect on the day so I can, have something really great to say. And I spent a lot of time talking to people, and I didn't really get back to my room till late at night. And I was trying to put into words my feelings and my experience about the summit so far, and it's getting later and later. And then the universe gave me a sign. It was a Twitter post, and it was from an advocate. And she put into words my thoughts about yesterday better than I could. And so I did a little bit of some slight tweaks to it, but I do want to give credit to Dawn DeBow, if she is in the room. And she said, "Thank you to all of our speakers and our attendees for an amazing, informative first day, with tears over the strength we are witnessing and laughter with the rarest of friends." And now on to day 2. And so thank you, Dawn, for bringing me that inspiration through Twitter, because I think you did just an amazing job of capturing my thoughts. So thank you. So last night, how am I doing here? Okay, I'm just going to go ahead. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I hope last night at the great fun party you had a chance to view some of the inspirational stories that were up on boards. We managed to have them up most of the evening before we had to take them out right before the downpour. And I thought it was such a fun party last night, and there were so many opportunities to talk to people. And tonight we're having another reception. It's our Champion of Hope's reception and then dinner. And I do want to make sure some people were commenting, I don't know if I have the right thing to wear or whatever. You know what? Come as you are. We don't care what you wear. You do you. You want to, come casual and whatever you've been comfortable in all day, please do. If you have that ball gown up in your room you've been dying to wear, go ahead and put it on. We don't care. It's a party and we want you here, and it's going to be so fantastic, and we have a wonderful program planned for you, and we're really going to be recognizing so many people who've been inspirational and done so much in the rare disease community. So please do come down. We talked yesterday again about our 10th anniversary, and we had the party last night. And yesterday, one of the great conversations I had was with Billy Chen at Ambry Genetics. And in honor of Global Gene's 10th anniversary, Ambry Genetics wants to make a donation of 10 Exome Next Trio tests to Global Genes so we can make those available to individuals in the rare disease community. We're so excited about this. We just found out yesterday, so I have no plan in place exactly how we're going to make these tests available. We'll probably create some, easy form online that anyone who's interested can submit, and then we'll, draw 10 and make those available. And we'll be doing that sometime over the next couple of weeks as soon as we come out of this summit and can figure out exactly how to do that. But I did want to mention it now and thank Ambry. And for those, I had to get a little lesson yesterday in what exome trio testing was. And so I do want to mention that it's a robust technology that sequences all of the functionally relevant regions of essentially all 20,000 genes of the human genome. Exome testing has the capacity to pinpoint rare genetic lesions in an unbiased and efficient way. The trio test tests the patient plus 2 additional family members, ideally the parents, and by testing the parents along with the patient, an exome trio test has a significantly higher chance of identifying the disease-causing genetic mutation. So thank you so much to Ambry. We will make sure that everyone who is here and everyone who registered for live stream and any way that you're connected with Global Genes, we do share the information of how that test may be available to receive. So thank you. Thank you, Ambry. Okay, at this point, I'd like to welcome our panel, and if they'll come ahead and make their way to the stage as I tell you more about what you're going to hear from them this morning. So, rare disease unites patients and families across borders. The goal is to accelerate research to understand rare diseases, ensure patients receive accurate, rapid diagnoses, identify and support best standards for clinical care, and support efforts to develop effective therapies and cures are universal. In our next session, we're going to hear from several global advocacy leaders about ambitious, innovative projects aimed at achieving these goals. To help us with the rare disease updates from the global stage, I'd like to introduce Frank Sasanowski, who is director at Hyman, Phelps, and McNamara. In his role as director, Frank assists sponsors and patient organizations in developing new medicines and has helped secure FDA approval for hundreds of new drugs. Frank joined the FDA in 1983 and played a key role in implementing the Orphan Drug Act of 1983 before leaving to join the law firm in 1987. Frank possesses a detailed understanding of the regulatory process. He regularly shares his insights on drug development issues with physicians, scientists, and regulators, and has served on the board of several biotechnology companies in addition to testifying before Congress. He also is a really nice guy, very funny. This panel should be a lot of fun, although serious as well. And I'd like to invite Frank up to get you all started. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So thanks, Meredith, and good morning, everyone. Since this is my first Global Genes Summit, I thought you might want to know how much I care about each of you and about each of you with a loved one with a rare condition. As Meredith explained, the Orphan Drug Law became law in 1983, and the FDA thought, wow, this is going to be a game changer. But nearly nothing was happening, so the Deputy Commissioner of FDA asked me to figure out why. And I did, and my analysis led to the 1984 and the 1985 amendments to the Orphan Drug Act that allowed the law to be the success that it has and to work for you. And then I drafted the regulations that implemented the law. 10 years ago, fast forwarding, 10 years ago on the 25th anniversary of the Orphan Drug Act, I advocated for creating three things. 1, a congressional caucus for rare diseases. 2, an FDA Office of Rare Diseases, and 3, the first FDA public hearing on rare diseases. The first two were accomplished, and at that third thing, the public hearing in June 2010, I was the first speaker, and I asked the FDA to publish guidance so that patients, the sponsors who are developing drugs, investors could know how much data does it take to get a therapy for a rare disease approved. Or if that's too difficult, FDA, because it might be, to try to distill this down and come up with that kind of guidance, I says, at least then catalog everything that you've done in approving drugs for rare diseases so that people could understand how much data is necessary. The FDA came up to me in private afterwards and said, Frank, brilliant, but we can't do it. So I did. I went to the 135 orphan drugs that were approved at the time, gathered all the medical reviews and all the statistical reviews, and only filled 27 boxes. I read those, did an analysis, and it was startling. What I found is that in 2/3 of those approvals, those drugs would not have been approved for a common disease. What does that mean? That means that the FDA was extraordinarily flexible in applying its legal standards, its requirements, when it came to therapies for rare diseases. This was an epiphany for patients, for drug sponsors, for the investment community. That's what started to pour in then the investment dollars into rare diseases. And most importantly to me, it was a teaching aid to the FDA. It taught the FDA that they're empowered to be flexible. So that's what I gave the FDA credit for, being flexible. So whenever you hear somebody invoke that term and say, gee, we hope the FDA will be flexible in looking at our data set, because it's kind of thin, you can think it all came back to this analysis and flexibility Frank. So that's my nickname. So then it turns out last month, as the vice chair of the Every Life Foundation, last month on the 35th anniversary of the Orphan Drug Act, I called for 3 new things to be created. One is an FDA Center for Excellence for Rare Diseases. You might not know this, but the FDA has created one of those. There's an FDA Center for Excellence for Cancer, for oncology. And I called that the second FDA Center for Excellence should be for you. The second thing I asked for is to have an advisory committee for rare diseases. A lot of times therapies go before an FDA advisory committee, and let's take it. You have a rare disease, let's say a rare dermatologic disease like EB or Pachyonychia congenita, and you go before an advisory committee at the FDA made up of dermatologists who have only seen acne and psoriasis. What do they know? So I asked also that the FDA create a standing permanent committee for rare diseases so that every time a new therapy comes forward for you, there'll be people who understand it. And the third thing is I asked for the FDA to create 10 new FDA positions so that there can be a deputy director at FDA for every office that has responsibility for rare diseases. That is a special person who's dedicated for rare diseases, a deputy director for rare diseases. The FDA has things like deputy directors for safety. They have an associate director for labeling. They should have a deputy director for rare diseases. So those are the 3 things that are the challenges that I've just announced. And if we're as successful as we were 10 years ago at the 25th anniversary and the 35th anniversary, you'll be able to look back at this day and say, we were there at the beginning when we were just going to embark on these other cases. You see, for a long, long time, everything I do has been for you. That is, for you people in the rare disease community. And so I wanted to start this morning by saying to each of you, Namaste. Namaste is an ancient Sanskrit word that means, I bow to the divine in you. So as the Black Eyed Peas sang long ago, let's get it started. We're excited to have Dr. Ann O'Donnell, Dr. Steve Groft, Barbara Wubbles, and Clifford Goldsmith join us this morning to discuss different global initiatives. Unfortunately, our final speaker today, Dr. Robin Smith, had to cancel due to illness, so I'll do my best to try to fill in for my friend Robin. Our first speaker, Dr. Ann O'Donnell, will discuss the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health. Ann is the Associate Director both of the Center for Mendelian Genomics and of the Rare Disease Group at the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard. She's also a physician in clinical and biochemical genetics at Boston Children's Hospital. She focuses on improving rare disease diagnosis and building registries to empower patient communities. She's the medical director for the Rare Genomes Project. I don't know how she all does it. There's only 24 hours in a day. Ann.
Okay, so I'm actually covering for Anthony Philippakis, who led one of the sessions yesterday morning and is the Chief Data Officer at the Broad Institute. This is actually a very exciting privilege for me for a number of reasons, but the first is that I have always thought it would be a really fun party game to present someone else's slides in front of an audience and have to yeah. So I think you also get an idea of the pretty wild parties that I go to. So here we go. I'm going to be talking to you today about data sharing and data standards. And the key here is that we have a lot of data, and so it's really important that we develop ways that we can share this data and we can use it across systems. So it's really exciting that more and more sequencing is being done. We're actually going to focus on genome sequencing here, which is just sequencing all of the DNA in each cell, which goes beyond exome sequencing, which focuses on the regions that code for genes. And this is some data that suggests that we have over 30,000 genomes from patients with rare disease. And then we have another almost 70,000 genomes from their relatives, because we often use families and parents and a child or a parent and an adult, to try to learn more about a disease that runs in a family so we can figure things out. And that goes even more, so in the next 5 years, we think we're gonna have close to 36 million and apparently 223,000, it's a very specific number, but this is the estimates, but 36 million is a ton of genomes, it's a ton of data that we expect to see across the world. And then even more when we add in the family members, they're gonna get sequencing. And a lot has happened in cancer space also. This is another place where sequencing has been really important. And so 23,000 cancer patients have had their genome sequenced, and over 50,000 cancers have been sequenced. So it's a difference if you sequence a patient's genome or if you sequence directly from their cancer. And so we think that this is going to also increase greatly, and we expect over 123 million in the next few years. So there's a lot of data that's going to be coming out just in the next 5 years, 13 years on this slide, but there's a lot of data coming in the future. And so what do we do with this data? Our goal is to make diagnoses so that we know more about what is causing the rare disease in a family, what is going on across communities, and so you can start to learn from your genetics, so you can hopefully have more answers for prognosis and medical management, for therapeutic options. And a lot of these, while they don't exist today, the hope is once we have more knowledge and we're able to understand better what's going on, that these options will start to appear and treatments will start to come about. And so right now, when we do sequencing, we're able to make a diagnosis in 20 to 30% of people who get exome sequencing, and we think that's gonna go a little bit higher with genome. And there's still a lot we don't know, and we think one of the ways that we're gonna figure out this large gray portion of the bar chart is by sequencing many, many people from around the world, from across different medical conditions, so that we can really understand a lot more of the variability and make sense of more of it. So that gets to our point of to really understand one person's genome. If we look at it, we all have millions of variants in our genome, and most of them actually don't have any impact at all. Other ones change whether we have curly hair versus straight hair, blue eyes versus brown eyes, so we have many that affect physical traits, others that affect minor biochemical traits in our body. And so we really need to figure out which are the actual genetic changes or genetic variants that are impacting or contributing to disease. And to do that, we need to compare one person's genome to millions of people's genomes. Because what we're looking for are the very rare variants so that we can start to look at them more and understand them more so we can make diagnoses. So there's a big challenge here. There's a lot of sequencing going on that I've mentioned, but the way a lot of this works is sequencing happens at different places, and it's stored locally within the sort of the study that it's done in, and so we are creating these data silos. In addition, all the medical information is in electronic health medical records, which is a separate silo from the genomic data. And then, so we just have a bunch of data that would be really powerful if we could put it all together, but in a lot of different places. And so this is the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health aim. It's an alliance across the world to accelerate health and progress in genomic science and human health by developing standards and framing policy for responsible genomic and health-related data sharing. And by responsible, that covers both ethical responsibility, but also data security, which is a really important factor here. So the Global Alliance is a really large group. It has over 500 organizational members. It includes people from industry, from pharma, from academia, from patient advocacy groups. It has over 2,000 independent subscribers, and so people can go online and sign up to join the Global Commission. And really importantly, it has representation from over 70 countries. So this is truly a global effort, which is really important because we all need to work together to really establish these standards and interoperability of our systems. So about 32% are universities and research institutes. There's academic and medical centers, disease advocacy organizations, and more are welcome to join, consortia and professional societies, funders and agencies, and life science and information technology companies. So finally, where are we going with genomics and healthcare? There's a lot of exciting projects happening. Australia is going to sequence 18,000 people by 2021. Finland is going to sequence 10% of their population in a FinGen project that is going to be coupled with medical records. And the UK has been currently in their Genomics England project, and UK Biobank has already well on their way to genome sequencing 100,000 patients, and they have just announced, actually Tuesday of this week, that they're going to be sequencing 1 million patients over the next 5 years, and they're hoping to also sequence family members, so might even take that up to 5 million genomes in the next 5 years. And here in the US, we have the NIH has sponsored the All of Us Personalized Medicine Initiative project, where there's a plan to sequence 1 million people in the next 5 years. And that is all for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann, and I think that Philip would be wise to let you do his slides more often. That was great. Next, Dr. Steve Groff will present on the International Rare Disease Research Consortium, as you can see from the slide. Steve is currently a senior advisor to the director in NCATS at NIH. Previously, he assisted in establishing the Office of Orphan Products Development at FDA in 1982. You can guess that Steve and I have known each other for 1 billion years. After serving as the executive director of the National Commission on Orphan Diseases, he established a rare diseases initiative at NIH. He served as the director of the Office of Rare Disease Research in NCATS at the NIH from 1993 until his retirement in 2014. His major focus has been on stimulating research with rare diseases and orphan products and developing information for patients, families, healthcare providers, research investigators, the biopharmaceutical industry, and the public. The emphasis included information about rare diseases, active and completed clinical trials, ongoing research, and patient advocacy groups. Steve.
We'll try to get this all put together. I hope everyone has been absorbing as much information from yesterday and Tuesday as what I have. It's amazing how much we can continue to learn. So every year is different here, and I think this year has been a superb conference. So to the Global Genes staff, I say thank you, and I hope everyone appreciates how much work has gone into this. So I'm going to cover one slide, and then I'll do 8 slides in about a minute. So these slides are available, and I just encourage you, if you see information that you're uncertain about and you find a contact information anywhere, contact them. I have to say, the rare disease community has changed so much and have made themselves so available to everyone. So do not be reluctant to check in with people to find out any information that you need, because the information is generally out there somewhere, and then it's just so important for you to connect with people to make things a little bit more understandable for you. So we're going to try to get these slides going. There we go. So my task today is to talk to you a little bit about IRDIRC, the International Rare Disease Research Consortium. This was started really back in 2010. We sequestered maybe about 60 or 70 people on the island of Iceland, and no one could get off, and there were some snowstorms, so we were especially productive. If you ever want to have a great meeting, get stuck in the snowstorm, and you'll have amazing results. The National Commission on Orphan Diseases, when we started back in 1987, our first meeting was in Washington, and we had about 23 inches of snow over 2 days, and everybody got in, nobody could get out. And that set the now I know you don't have that in California, right? Meredith said no, so we're okay. But do that for your own site, your own family meetings and other things. It's really pretty amazing. But here's the IRDIRC structure. A little different. We have a consortium assembly, which is made up of the funders. And you can see most of the activities are focused down at the scientific committees and the constituent committees. And we utilize task force to address specific issues that I'll talk about. So all of these groups here, you have the opportunity to nominate individuals to be on these various scientific committees that we deal with different issues. And there is an active website to follow. So I said we established it in 10 and 11. We finally gained agreement on what we were going to really focus on. And it was on global coordination and cooperation in rare diseases research, something that many of us have known for years, that if we're going to have success in rare diseases research and orphan products development, we need a global effort to really to maximize the information and the resources that are available around the world. So we have members on this. I'll have a little bit of a map then to show you where the representation is coming from the various groups within the IRDIRC structure. And Our initial objectives that we set for ourselves were to have 200 new therapies for rare diseases by 2020. In 2017, we hit that goal, and we've been moving forward, and I'll have the newer goals that we just formulated last year. But we still have the other goal objective to diagnose most rare diseases by 2020. And you know how difficult that can be, but I think as you heard from Ann, a lot of different activities are ongoing that we think will really speed up the diagnosis of the rare disease. So the new vision that was put out recently, and there are some publications with this, is really to enable all people living with a rare disease to receive diagnosis, care, and therapy within 1 year of coming to the attention of subspecialty medical physicians and research medical teams and research teams. So we really want to try to get this emphasis on getting that diagnosis as soon as possible. And I think as you have heard from other speakers, if we're able to get the diagnosis more quickly and we have a treatment, we can really just prevent many of the terrible effects that occur with some of these rare disorders. So that's our goal. We're trying to aim for 1,000 new therapies for rare diseases by 2027. And again, I think we're relying on the newer technology to get us to that goal. And I think many of us feel that it will be achievable as we work through gene therapy, gene editing techniques, as we look at repurposing of both investigational approved drugs. I think it will give us the opportunity to really get to that many approvals. And then to work on methodology to assess the impact of diagnosis and therapy on rare diseases and the patients. Okay, 2 minutes. So the secretary is Annaline Junker and the website there, and the consortium chair is Chris Austin, the director of NCATS at NIH. And he's due to rotate off next March, so we're in the process now of identifying a possible member. So here are some of the policies and guidelines that we've been working on, and however you want to look at the bullets, but we've talked about ontologies, nomenclature for the different rare diseases, different activity, focus on diagnostics, biomarkers, patient registry, natural history studies. And what we're trying to do is gain this access to all of the funders so that they will adopt these procedures and methods and really have a much better quality of research for the rare disorders. And you can see the various groups there within it. I got the 2-minute warning, so you guys go deep and head to the goalpost and we'll hit you on the fly. But here are the funders, and it's not hard, it's really not hard, oh boy. The funders have to provide $10 million of research over 5 years, but you can see the various companies, the individual organizations that are involved in this, the patient advocacy groups that has been expanding ever since we started, including the Global Genes, and you can see many of the various organizations globally that are involved with rare diseases. So the various task forces that we're involved with, the Matchmaker Exchange, which was just talked about, the unsolved, the undiagnosed disease, data sharing, and all of the other things. And different scientific committees have an emphasis, and each of the committees can bring up a specific subject. So if you have an interest, check out the groups. If you have a subject that you think should be covered by everybody in the rare disease community, propose it to them, and we can then bring it up to the attention. So we have ERDRC recognized resources, and that is about it. I think that must be the moment. But I do... It's one way to get me to stop talking. I think thank you, time's up. But I do want to mention the end. Yeah, they do this to me all the time. It's okay. The NCATS ORDR toolkit, please take some time to go through and look at that. It's some valuable resources on how to respond and how to work your organization and to provide a focus on rare diseases. Please do so. The representation of the countries, and Meredith, if I don't get this going, we're done. Okay, thank you very much, and please enjoy the meeting.
See, you can see that my good friend Steve is a little bit like Pinocchio. He says he retired in 2012, and his wife, who's here today, is saying, Steve. So anyway, our next speaker is Barbara Wubbles. She'll discuss the International Conference on Rare Diseases and Orphan Drugs. Barbara has 15 years of experience working with patients, organizations, and clinicians in the rare disease community. At Audentes Therapeutics and BioMarin Pharmaceuticals, her focus was the development of advocacy programs and strategic plans. Barbara directed clinical education within the Orphan Drug Division at Medicis Pharmaceuticals and served as Director of Clinical Affairs at Vivra Health Advantage. She started her career as an RN, earned a Master's of Science in Adult Health Nursing at Arizona State, and a BSN from St. Louis University. Barbara?
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. And I guess I'll continue with the snow idea because the very first ICORD meeting was held in Stockholm, Sweden, and there was 23 inches of snow the night before the meeting started. But the Swedes are undaunted by snow. It was amazing. They were out there the next day, the streets were clear, people were moving around, and it was like nothing had happened. The meeting was opened by Queen Sylvia of Sweden, which was quite an honor for the group, and she's been relatively involved and interested in orphan diseases ever since. Why is ICORD unique? The meetings are held, first of all, in conjunction with an academic institution, which most meetings that we go to are not. The focus is on supporting orphan drug legislation and improving healthcare for rare disease patients. It allows the key players in the orphan drug scene to come together in a very relaxed setting. We are at a meeting today that's almost all patient advocacy organizations. We go to other meetings that are almost all medically oriented, or we go to other meetings that are almost legislatively oriented or regulatory oriented. ICORD is the one place where everybody comes to the table with an equal voice. It's in a very relaxed, informal setting, so people sit down and talk and get to know one another. And I think as a result of that, a lot of good things have happened. The mission of ICORD is to be an international society for all individuals actively involved in rare diseases and orphan drugs, including healthcare, research, academia, industry, patient organizations, regulatory authorities, health authorities, and public policy professionals. Brings everybody together. The mission is to improve the welfare of patients with rare diseases and their families worldwide. Another unique thing about ICORD, it's worldwide. Through better knowledge, research, information, education, and awareness. This is a list of all the ICORD conferences that have been held starting in 2005, which was the very first ever global rare disease meeting. So when we tend to get frustrated at the lack of progress, stop for a minute and think. We never had a global rare disease meeting before 2005. We've come a long ways. Every one of these meetings has been a very educational experience for the attendees. Speaking as a middle-class white American woman, it was a real eye-opener to me to see how the rest of the world lived and what they lived without. Probably the one that impacted me the most was the one in South Africa. I think of South Africa as a relatively affluent country. They have diamond mines, they have gold mines. If you drive around Cape Town, it's a lovely city. But you know what? There's no newborn screening in South Africa unless patients privately pay for it. So roughly 4,000 babies a year have newborn screening. So even the most common diseases like PKU are never picked up. I think, we think that the whole world, at least in my view, operates like we do. But going to these meetings has really taught me that the whole world is not on the same playing field we are. They don't have the same opportunities. Countries may, in the European Union, a drug can be approved, but that doesn't mean that every country in the European Union will get that drug. It has to be approved individually by each country. So while drugs may be available, they are not available. So it's very good to me, at least, to see how the rest of the world operates, to realize the need to build partnerships with the rest of the world, to try and figure out strategies to help them get the legislation and the drugs that they need. So I mentioned already that the very first global meeting was in 2005. In 2010, we met in Buenos Aires. That was the very first rare disease meeting in all of South America. They'd never had anything. And in 2012, we met in Japan, which was interesting because we were really supposed to have met in 2011 in Japan, 2 weeks after the tsunami occurred. So obviously, nobody was traveling to Japan. And the lady who was in charge of the meeting was holed up in her office for 5 days. She couldn't get out. So in 2016, the first one ever held on the entire continent of Africa. And in Beijing in 2017, it was the first time that the global Asian community got a chance to come together and get to know each other. And there was 600 people at that meeting last year. It was very, very impressive. And they are keenly interested in orphan drugs, in an orphan drug organizations, and how can they build better things for their people. It also allowed Orphanet, which you probably are all familiar with, but if you're not, Google orphanet.com. Orphanet is based in France, and they have a huge database of information. If you ever want to know incidence and prevalence for a disease, Orphanet's your first place to look. They also publish a wonderful monthly journal. In Stockholm was the meeting just a couple of weeks ago. I didn't get to go to that, but Steve did. And that led to some changes within ICORD. So to me personally, ICORD has been one of my most valuable experiences in the rare disease community. I think, again, because it opened my eyes, it allowed me to see for sure what was going on in the rest of the world. It's allowed me to build a lot of global collaborations and relationships and get to know people all around the world. And I think it is improving the healthcare of everybody around the world. Last year, the UN passed a resolution that no one be left behind. I think in large part, that was driven by the work of ICORD. This is why you should join. Get out there, get your voice heard, go out and learn about the rest of the world. Understand why not everybody is like us, and understand ways we can do, things we can do to make the world better. So like the song says, remember the song, "We are the world, we are the world. We are the ones who make a brighter day." I would urge you all to spend 58 euros in annual dues and join ICORD and do your little bit to make the world a better place. Thank you. Oh, ICORD is moving their offices from the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm to Barcelona. And the next ICORD meeting will be held in the fall of 2019 in Israel. Thanks.
Thanks, Barbara. That was very good. Thanks, Barbara. That was excellent. Our next speaker is Clifford Goldsmith, who will discuss the Global Commission to End the Diagnostic Odyssey for Children. Clifford is a managing director for the U.S. provider industry at Microsoft. He develops and delivers Microsoft's business strategy for Microsoft's U.S. teams as they engage with healthcare providers. Clifford brings a unique experience to Microsoft as a physician who also has over 28 years of know-how in envisioning, designing, developing, and selling high-performance technology solutions for the healthcare industry. He specializes in technology for shared accountability for health. Clifford.
Thanks very much. I got up because I want to try and shorten the introduction.
No, this
it was
great.
very embarrassing. The other thing I was going to do, I was going to ask Anne if she would do my presentation for me. Actually, it's a joke, but she could do it. She happens to be on the Global Commission. So I'm going to talk about the Global Commission. The drive behind the Global Commission is a bold ambition. It's a one-year strategy at the moment, and the goal is to reduce the time to diagnosis for rare diseases. It's a partnership of very diverse stakeholders, and it's great to have this panel because you've seen everything from US initiatives, data standards, global initiatives. It brings that all together. And what we really are trying to look at is the intersection between science and technology in this one-year effort, and try and look at what technology can do to expand and extend the science. So you can see here, the work initially was done by Rabin Martin, who were the consultants that set up these different areas. And we've been looking in 4 tracks at how we can use technology to impact the time to diagnosis for rare disease. So the 4 tracks are practice redesign and task shifting. That's the one there. The second is global policy, which you've heard quite a bit about. The third track is primary care physician engagement and primary care engagement. And the fourth track is about patients and caregivers empowerment. And you can see some of the technologies that we've been thinking about that we think are going to have an impact are things like intelligent insights into data. Anne spoke about big data and how important, she spoke about a lot of data that we're going to have. It's going to take intelligence, it's going to take machine learning, it's going to take deep learning to analyze that data and start to use it in a different way. Innovating around engagement and engagement platforms between the different players in the space. New data sets, and again, you heard that from Anne. Standards for care coordination, and then finally, standards and ideas for technology around patient empowerment. So as I said, the Global Commission was formed at the beginning of this year, and it's going to go for 1 year. The idea is to produce a report. We've decided that report will be a digital report, and it will be made available round about Rare Disease Day this year. But there is another interesting effort going on at the United Nations in January and February, where there's going to be a hearing about rare disease, and there may be some announcements associated with that. So that's the time frame. This group, the groups involved, we were asked by Shire to join the initiative, and so Shire, Microsoft, and Eurydice have led the initiative. I'll show you some of the members in a moment from all over the world. And they've met 3 times at this stage, with a lot of work going on in between these efforts. What I'm going to show you is a preliminary idea of where the Commission is going and what it's likely to say. And some of these ideas are my own ideas that are added on top of it. The details will only be finalized in the next few months. There are 15 leaders in this commission. I mentioned Anne is one of them. There are other names and faces that you'll recognize from all over the world. There are people from China. There's participation from Taiwan. There's somebody from Saudi Arabia on the commission. And I'm not going to go into all the details. And there's obviously a number of people from the US as well. So I mentioned the 4 tracks. These are the 4 tracks that we're looking at, and I'm going to talk about the findings in those 4 tracks in a moment. But the area of patient and family empowerment is all about how do we identify new tools that will allow patients and families to work more closely together with their primary care physicians. The second is how do we actually engage the frontline and enable the frontline providers, either a pediatrician or a primary care physician, to be able to do more quickly and shorten that process to diagnosis. The third is around the shortage, and we have this not just in genetics, but we have this in many areas in healthcare, but how do we reimagine that genetic consultation in a way that we can scale it, particularly in countries, and I'm from South Africa actually, that's my accent, particularly in countries like South Africa. How do we scale to that ability to get a genetic consultation? And then the global policy, I'm not going to say a lot about that today. That's being worked on primarily by Eurydice through their membership, and there will be a number of factors in the report that will come out with that. So the 2 areas that I wanted to mention in the empowering patients, the first is how do you get the right tools at the time so that you can learn as patients and families of young patients to ask the right questions of your physicians. The second is an important one, and I'm going to just mention it, and it ties into what Anne was talking about. How do we create an ability to take your medical record and move with your medical record as well as your genomic record from one physician to another, because we know that you need multiple consultations. The idea of a rare disease passport across the world that can contribute not just to research, but contribute to diagnosis as well. In the area of reimagining the genetic consultation, the obvious thing which is happening in all of healthcare across the world as we change the way that healthcare is delivered is a virtual consultation. And so we're looking here, and part of the report is going to deal with how do we scale a virtual consultation for genomics, for genetic consultation, particularly to rural or remote areas, and then how do we provide other data together with that consultation that will empower such things like facial recognition and other gait recognition, voice recognition. And then finally, when we think about first-line providers, how do we give them tools to make that diagnosis earlier? How do we give them tools to actually make sure that they actually think about a rare disease earlier as well? And that's where this learning will come in with these large samples of data and big data that we can start to use to look at factors that will make you predict or think about a rare disease. So really that was it. These are some of the pilots that are going on at the moment. These are pilots that are not done by the commission, but are drawn from the membership. There are examples there, and I'm not going to spend time on them. Some of the work is also going to how do we make next generation sequencing more affordable and more available to everybody. I'm telling you, you can take a look at this. But again, Anne mentioned that the idea here with the data is to bring together electronic health records. So taking data and sequencing it out, and getting it out of that electronic record in a form that can be used by machine learning or by deep learning to aid in the diagnosis with genomics. So anybody's interested, Shire is actually managing most of the process. There will be this announcement next year, and there's the person that you can contact if anyone needs to. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Clifford. I want to ask Meredith, are the slides going to be made available? Are they going to go up on our website? So, because people keep saying, look at the slides. And they should be available already within the app itself. Okay. All right. So people will have access to that. Dr. Robin Smith is our final presenter. Unfortunately, she can't join us due to illness. I want to make sure I introduce her and her team's amazing efforts. I'm standing in for Robin. She would be much better, but I'll do my best. Robin's a global thought leader in regenerative medicine. In 2007, she founded the STEM for Life Foundation, devoted to fostering global awareness of the potential for regenerative medicine to treat and cure a range of deadly diseases and debilitating medical conditions. In 2010, Dr. Smith forged a historic, first-of-its-kind partnership with the Vatican, bringing the charity's mission to a global audience. As part of this relationship, the Vatican and the STEM for Life Foundation created high-profile initiatives to catalyze interest and investment to reduce human suffering on a global scale. Dr. Smith served as chairman of the board and president of the STEM for Life Foundation since its inception, has been expanding its mission further under the Cura Foundation brand since 2016. Cura Foundation is an international nonprofit company based in New York City that seeks to bring stakeholders together in an effort to advance human health. The Cura Foundation leads a global health movement called Unite to Cure. It bridges between doctors, health systems, patients, business leaders, regulators, investors, politicians, philanthropists, leaders of faith to collaborate and speed the development of cures to impact human health and save lives. The Unite to Cure movement was designed to bring people together to advance cures and innovation to reduce human suffering, keeping patients and their families always at the center of the story. The Cura Foundation has reached over 3 billion people. Pope Francis personally participated in both the 2016 and the 2018 event. Moderators included Dr. Sanjay Gupta, Dr. Oz, Meredith Vieira, Dr. Max Gomez from CBS, Robin Roberts from Good Morning America, featured an array of VIPs like Francis Collins at NIH, former Vice President Joe Biden, Katy Perry, Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Peter Gabriel, over 300 of the world's leading doctors, scientists, philanthropists, ministers of health, ethicists, and thought leaders, as well as patients. Let me just say that you are always at the center of this, and to give you an idea of why your stories are important, and I'm going to make a pitch from Robin for you later on, but just to set the stage, for instance, at this year's meeting, Steve and I were both at that meeting, and I'm giving a presentation, I'm on a panel. There's Francis Collins sitting in the first row. Now, one of his accomplishments was with the Human Genome Project, was cracking the human genome. So here he is listening to one of the other panelists, Sean Nolan, who is the head of Avexis, show a video of a little boy, I think his name was Marco, 3-year-old boy, with type 1 SMA. Type 1 SMA is what was always called floppy babies. They have no body turgor, can't lift their heads, can't roll over. They had his gene therapy from Avexis, and at 3 years old, he showed a video of little Marco walking down the hospital hall, balancing on his tiptoes to press the elevator. Francis Collins, I'm sitting right here, and I'm looking at Francis Collins. His eyes are bugging out of his head because he can see what he did with the Human Genome Project and see it translates into evidence of how it improved the lives of a person. The next month, Francis Collins took that video and presented it to Congress in his congressional testimony. So later on, I'm going to ask you to share your stories when we get to that point of hope so that maybe you can go with Robin and be at the Vatican with the Pope in April 2020 to share your stories of hope. But at the 2016 event, the Pope commented, This is what he said. During your discussion, you have offered your professionalism and high-level expertise in the area of researching new treatment. At the time, you have not ignored ethical, anthropological, social, and cultural questions, as well as the complex problem of access to cure those afflicted by rare conditions. These patients are often not given sufficient attention because investing in them is not expected to produce substantial economic return. In my ministry, I frequently meet people affected by so-called rare diseases. These illnesses affect millions of people throughout the world and cause suffering and anxiety for all those who care for them, starting with family members. Your work is a sign of hope, as it brings together people and institutions from diverse cultures, societies, and religions, all united in their deep concern for the sick. It is fundamentally important that we promote greater empathy in society and not remain indifferent to our neighbor's cry for help, including when he or she is suffering from a rare disease. So if we can show the video from the Pope this year.
Hi, I'm Meredith Vieira. I'm excited about joining an important mission. The Foundation has big goals to find cures and treatments for some of the most debilitating illnesses our families face today.
La Fondazione Stand for Life. Perciò siamo chiamati a rendere noto il problema delle malattie rare su scala mondiale, a investire nella formazione più adeguata, a incrementare le risorse per la ricerca, a promuovere.
About 10 years ago, I realized that medicine was changing and that we were learning more about our immune system and the ability to use it to amplify the cells to heal ourselves. The goal was to bring many influencers together who have a voice, to be able to get in front of people and have them understand, where we are, to have even doctors understand that sickness doesn't just affect the patient, but the entire family.
How close are we to really helping folks with some of these devastating diseases? MS being an example, but there are many others I could list off right now.
We've seen extraordinary advances the last few years, especially in cancer, autoimmune disorders, and even rare diseases with gene therapy, immunotherapy, and cell therapy.
A focus on rare diseases helps everyone. First, rare diseases open the door to scientific breakthroughs. Second, rare diseases change the regulatory system to be more flexible. 3, therapies for rare diseases in the United States help many elsewhere in the world. And 4, persons with rare diseases are leading the revolution in drug development that is recognizing the importance of patients.
You really realize when you go down a road like this and during a journey that I've been on that it's not just about one person. We really all are united. I wrote a book called Saving Each Other with Allie, and Allie said at one point, Mom, this is not just about the two of us anymore. It's about everybody with this condition. And I've embraced that. And I know now when I am flying here or I'm sitting in the Vatican that I'm going to work to find a cure for everybody. And I feel it's hard, but it's a privilege and not a position that I ever thought I'd be in, but it's one I fully embrace.
My body, because of the disease, doesn't make enough collagen, which makes our bones strong. And for some reason, when my doctor gives me these stem cells, it makes them stronger. Future kids who will have my disease, they could be cured because of what I'm doing now, because of what he's doing now. So for me, it was not just about me after a while, it was about other people, about helping them.
There were a couple of key things that have happened. Just in society, we have greater expectations for being involved in all kinds of decisions that used to be sort of somebody else's problem to deal with, and we just accepted those decisions. So culturally, things have changed. Technology has made it possible for people to meet other patients like them, and that has really mobilized people to be able to say, hey, we want to roll in this, and it's also allowed researchers and regulators and companies to find patients more easily than having no other way to do that previously. And then I think the third component of it is our healthcare system isn't working right now. So we've got to go another way. And this really putting what the patient needs seems to be a very logical next step.
So when Robin says, please join us there at the end, what she's talking about is, well, let me digress for a second, and that is that Pope Francis, when he became Pope, had the choice to take any name. He, for the first time in the Church's history, chose the name Francis to honor Francis of Assisi. Many of us think today is the feast day, October 4th, of St. Francis of Assisi. Many of us think of St. Francis as the patron saint of the kind of Mother Earth, of nature. Truth is that his conversion experience from being a wealthy, self-indulgent person in Assisi to becoming who he became was when he recognized that the person with the rare disease in their community who lived outside the city because they weren't worthy enough to live in the city, the leper, was his brother too. And it's said that the day that St. Francis kissed the leper and embraced the leper is the day he converted and became who he became. So today, on the feast day of St. Francis, hearing about Pope Francis, I encourage you to go by sending your stories of hope to the Cura Foundation. And the Cura Foundation will curate those, and they will invite some of you to come. Steve and I met many of these families who were invited to come this past April, and Steve and I look forward, hopefully, to seeing some of you in April 2020. So I want to thank Robin for her talk. Now, what I wanted to say is that there are many geniuses in the room, and including the panel. And some of them are people like Nicole, you know, the founder of Global Genes, and Wendy, who's the chairman of the board. Because what they've done for you today, look what they've done. Look what you've heard. All about what's going on around the world. We all focus on what's right in front of us, because that's right, that's what's most immediate. But when you see yourself as part of a global program, a global movement, you understand how important you are to that system. So it's kind of like that first picture in December 1968 from Apollo 8, looking back at our blue orb, and we suddenly saw we are all one. That's what the Global Genes people have done to you by putting together this panel today. So I want to thank the Global Genes for putting together this panel, and I want to thank the panel. So join me in thanking them. And now we're going to open up to Q&A. I'm not sure how this works, Meredith. Are there microphones around? Yeah. Okay.
Eric.
And if people are shy about asking the first question, we can start with the second question. So let's just go right to the second question. Anything for this panel? Because we heard an awful lot that's going on everywhere, from breaking down the silos of genomic information to ICOR to, is there...
Hi, Frank. I just wanted to say hi in case I can't catch up with you later. Terry Ellsworth, Billy's mom.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful.
So I'd love to catch up with you and share some of his progress with you.
Yeah.
This is really just a hello. I really don't have any questions. But I loved all the encouragement, and this is just all very exciting. So thank you to all of you.
Yeah. That's good.
Hi, I'm Sarah with the Jane Foundation. Thank you so much. This has been really wonderful to hear about. Just a quick question for Barbara. With ICORD, I'm just curious if there's been presence and support and partnerships being built in India.
I'm going to let Steve answer that question because Steve will give you some cutting edge news.
Yeah, we actually are scheduling a two-phase meeting, and Prasanna Sharal and Harsha Rajasim are here from ORDI, Organization for Rare Disorders India. And next April, it will be a 3-day conference there involving Undiagnosed Diseases Network International, as well as an emphasis from the Indian government, who are supporting part of the meeting, and the organization. And so yes, there has been a great emphasis, and they've been participating. People from India have been participating in the Undiagnosed Diseases Network International. So there's a growing area of emphasis and interest.
So stay tuned.
Yep.
Steve, I am here. I am Prasanna.
Steve. Oh, Prasanna, where's Prasanna?
Yeah.
Oh, back here, okay, good.
Just identifying myself.
And both Prasanna and Harsha are fathers of children who've had rare disease, have rare diseases. So they have boots on the ground.
Go ahead.
I just had knee surgery, so sorry. Stand up slow. My name's Jane Gunther.
Hold the mic a little closer.
Jane Gunther. I'm with the Cure Catacil Association. And I was wondering, with the development of software to diagnose patients, with Catacil, it's an onset in adulthood. So I'm wondering if the software would also be developed to assist physicians with adults that have rare diseases.
Do you want to talk about that? Thank you.
Sure. I think there are two parts to what kinds of software needs to be developed. First of all, it's all about the change in the way that we do diagnostics. The traditional way, when you have a limited amount of data, and that was the traditional approach with rare disease, is to create a set of rules. And we have this in many diseases and many diagnostic areas. So you develop a set of rules based on the literature, based on evidence-based medicine, and those are the guidelines. Those are, they're useful, but their level of effectiveness is relatively low when you think about it. Why computer diagnosis has become such an interesting issue suddenly is because of this large volume of data that we suddenly have. So the cloud has created this ability, and you heard it from Anne many times, but we see it all over where there's just enormous amounts of data that are now available. What you can now do, instead of setting a set of rules against it, you can ask the computer to look at the patterns within that data. And if you have enough data, you can make predictions about a patient that you're seeing against those patterns. So there are two pieces to that kind of deep learning that we talk about that are needed in cancer as well as in rare disease. The one is, how do you identify which patients should be followed up and investigated early on for rare disease? And I'll give you an example. I was actually talking to Anne a bit about this before. There's a study going on at the moment in ICUs, in 6 ICUs here in the United States. And what they're doing is, in the NICUs, when a patient, a child, is undiagnosed and maybe has some reason to think that they haven't got a diagnosis, they then are putting them into a trial, and Illumina is running genomic screenings on them and trying to get a rare disease, trying to create a diagnosis. The question is, to me, what causes that doctor, that nurse in the NICU to decide to put that patient as a potential candidate into that trial?
Exactly.
And I don't think they know it.
No.
I think they're often very, very vague terms that they use. And that's where a computer is particularly powerful. So it's in that area that we've got to look. And you may be very surprised, because the findings in other industries are that might be things that are almost unrelated to the way we currently think about diagnosis or potential diagnosis. So that's the one piece of the software that has to be developed. The other piece of the software is, once you have a patient and that's already being seen, and you have the genomic screening, and you have phenotypical data, facial recognition and other things, can you assist in trying to, we know many of them are unresolved or undiagnosed cases, can the computer do better in helping point to the right diagnosis? So they're two very different things that we've got to look at there.
Both important, both equally important, Clifford. Yeah.
And both underutilized. In fact,
Steve has something else that he wanted to say. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Clifford.
No, that's fine.
If I can add, when we started the Undiagnosed Diseases program at NIH in 2008, the emphasis was on adult patients, and it continues to be so. But we did add in with the addition of Cindy Tift to Bill Gall and others there at the NIH, an emphasis on the pediatric diseases. So we're hitting both groups, including teenagers and adolescents. We don't jump. So we're really looking at across the lifespan. I just would like to mention one thing too. If any of you are concerned about whether your disease is classified anywhere, like in the ICD-10, which in all likelihood it's not, I encourage you to go to the WHO's ICD-11 version. It's a beta version for comment, and look to see if your disease is included in there. You have the opportunity to review the addition of maybe 4,900 more rare disorders into the proposed ICD-11. So please take time to check that, and you can sign in and then provide comments to people. And whether we do it in next year or the following year, it's coming, and we want more and
Steve,
more.
Steve, I'm going to give you a homework assignment. If you can prepare a slide, just one slide that we can put into the deck that would then have that, so that the people don't have to worry. Well, where is they go WW ICD-11 or something? But just write it down, and then Global Genes will put that up. We have another question over there. Yeah, this would be the last question.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today. My name is Les Rogers. I'm with Cardiofacciocutaneous Syndrome International, or RASopathy. We're looking at how can we help in this whole progress of advancing genomics and et cetera. And one of the things we have turned to is the NIH is doing this ClinVar study to try to hopefully get rid of the variants of unknown significance that everybody we all have them, but trying to figure out what are those variants that are pathogenic versus which are not, so we can get consistency with diagnosis. Are there other things, I'm sure there are, that we can be doing from our organizational groups to help with projects like that? Thank you.
And that sounds like it's ready-made for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to do, obviously, and it's hard to know even where to start. I think helping with ClinVar and getting that data set more robust is a great project to be doing. I think signing up for a lot of these email lists, like GA4GH has one, so you can hear about new things that are happening kind of in real time, so you know where is best for your community to get involved. And I think a lot of us have email lists for that. And then just continuing to come to things like this and engage, and the more we can all kind of work together to share data and kind of demand that our healthcare system help us with sharing data is really powerful. I don't know if there's other.
So I'd like you all to join me in thanking this panel and thanking Global Genes for putting them together. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all so much. I'm kind of itching to go back to my computer and start Googling all of these things and learning more about them. The slides that they're referring to should be on the mobile app. You want to go to the session and then to the individual speaker name and scroll down, and at the bottom is where you'll find their slides. For some reason they're not there. It probably means that we just haven't had an opportunity to upload them. So just check back on those. So a quick reminder, if you are participating in the Entrepreneurial Readiness Boot Camp, you should be heading over to that Pelican room for opening at 9:30. I think they had asked you guys to check in by now. Okay, and at this time, Eric Sid, who's with NCATS and the Office of Rare Disease Research, has a quick announcement.
Okay, thank you, Meredith. If you go to the slides, please. So, okay, thank you. So again, my name is Eric Sid. I'm with the Office of Rare Disease Research at NCATS at NIH, and I have the pleasure of announcing a new prize competition that we just opened up this weekend. It's called Rare Diseases Are Not Rare. And, you've already heard all this, you already live this. An estimated 30 million Americans with rare disease, many more across the world. And speaking both as a physician as well as a carrier of a rare disease, and same experience as you all know, rare disease patients often have shared stories. So we've identified a need within the NIH, at the Office of Rare Disease Research, about how do we educate others on the common struggles of the rare disease community, that the issues that we face may not necessarily be rare issues, and may be issues that many others also have to deal with. So what this is a new prize competition that was just opened up this past weekend, and this is our challenge that we're asking to you, our community. How do we raise awareness for all rare diseases as a collective community of, not a single individual rare disease, but all together as a community? How do we draw attention to the many diverse people impacted by rare diseases? And how do we highlight needs for research and development of new treatments? So what we're asking for, and what we're offering a small cash prize, is help us with creating innovative approaches to educate people about rare diseases through social media and art. The prizes will be the first place, a $3,000 cash prize, as well as travel expenses to the Washington, D.C. metro area to actually present your winning entry at the next upcoming Rare Disease Day at NIH in Bethesda in February of 28th, 2019. Second place winners will get $1,500, and third place winners will get $500. Honorable mentions will also be posted onto the NCAT's website as well. So again, these are some important dates to keep in mind for the prize competition. It just opened up this past weekend on September 30th. We have about a month available for folks to submit their entries, and after that, in November, we'll be reviewing these. And then winners will be announced in December with a presentation again at the next Rare Disease Day at NIH. Please remember to submit your entry, and go ahead and encourage anyone else in your community, your children, your friends, anyone that you can think of, to help raise more awareness to the issues that are, again, common amongst rare disease groups, and how can we bring, rather than thinking of ourselves just as rare issues, really looking at this as a whole community of rare diseases. So please go ahead and submit your entries. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. We've heard a lot about the importance of storytelling and how important those are to other people and making connections. We have a great project going on through the summit, and if you haven't seen it yet, it's called the Strangers Project. You take a few minutes during one of the networking breaks or lunchtime or this afternoon between the final session and our reception to write your story and to take part in that project. It's so powerful if you haven't seen it. It's outside on the terrace, and I think we actually were thinking about even moving it into the foyer so that it was more easily accessible. So please do take a look for that. We're now going to go ahead and directly into sessions. They'll begin promptly at 9:45, followed by a nice networking break from 10:45 to 11:30, another break, another session, and then lunch available beginning at 12:30 out on the lawn. Have a great day. We'll be back in this room all together again at 3:15. Thank you.